How is it going, folks? And a fond farewell today to Tokyo 23 as we dive into the future of our Japanese save game that we've been playing through FM24 ahead of a new adventure starting very, very soon. Today I've simulated 10 years. We're going to start by going 1 year, then 5 years, then 10 years to see what became of this little old team we built from nothing. Top of J1, we've left them having won the league title for a third year in a row. Sadly, we couldn't achieve that continental success, but with a media prediction of second for the coming year, I think it's safe to say at this club the team has been built up to a fairly high standards, and now it's on my successor to take over the reins and hopefully do well. Just as a little reminder, if you're a channel member, there is a channel member post over on the channel community tab that has a download link for the save game at the end of the save and the in the future save games. For those of you that aren't channel members, those links will be available towards the end of this week. So keep a close eye on the channel for those if you want to get the save files for this save. Besides all of that, shall we run the intro for one last time? Let's enjoy this intro. It's one of my favourites. I'll see you in a year. Not literally, of course. That would be a long gap between uploads. No, we are here. It's 2033. We have a successor, and I'll tell you what I've spotted straight away. Tokyo 23, still top of J1. They won the title over Vissel Kobe by 3 points. Abazi, who of course was that star signing I made in the final year, is the top goal scorer. Could be very interesting to see if they keep hold of this guy. I feel like I got him on a very, very good contract on £8,000 a week. And yet, 14 goals. He has been their main man this year. Now, they have got a new manager in Shotaro Murakami has taken the reins. The 50-year-old has a pretty good reputation. Previously was managing Seoul over in South Korea. Before that was playing as a manager for Yokohama FC. And I have to say now, just looking at his attributes, he looks pretty good. Now, concerningly, the club bank balance is down at £2 million. They have lost a lot of money over the course of this year. I'm a bit concerned the team might not be able to sustain itself without selling players. And if there's something I've learned from Football Manager, when the AI comes to wheeling and dealing, sometimes it's not very good at it. Of course, in terms of the transfers that they've made here, you can see some players signed in my absence. The big signing they made was this guy, Masuda, 24 years old, a right back. And I guess this guy is meant to be the successor for the main man, Mitsuhashi. Speaking of which, Mitsuhashi has left the club on loan to go to Avispa, and when we compare Masuda to him, yeah, like, I'll admit it, he is a little bit better than our old favourite. Now, I have noticed they weren't in the Emperor's Cup final. Of course, we bottled that final in our final game in charge. They didn't get that far in the competition. I'm looking for where they got knocked out of it, and the answer is really early on. They lost to Frontale in the third round, so absolute bottlers there. As for the Asian Champions League, they lost on penalties against John Buck. So 2 years in a row they lost to the South Korean outfit. And, well, did John Buck go on to win the whole thing? That's what I'm wondering. That's what you're wondering. The answer is they actually did. That is really, really annoying, isn't it? You can see here they beat Al Gharafa 3-1 in Australia, and for a second year in a row, it was John Buck from East Asia winning the Champions League. Of course, the way the draw is done, there is an East and West split, so you're always destined to see, more often than not, a team from Saudi Arabia with a load of money go up against a South Korean, a Japanese, or a Chinese team. You can see here, the team they beat have got some very good players, like Karim Kanate up front. I can't help but feel like if I'd had to play against this team, they would have just battered us. All in all, though, I think it's safe to say a fairly successful first season. They've not crumbled immediately, and interesting to note here, Kibe is actually marked as the team's key player. The 23-year-old has now played for the Japanese national team. Of course, he was emerging as a bit of a star for us just before I left the club. And in fact, looking at things here, 5 representatives of Tokyo 23 in the national team is really, really cool to see, including Shimoda. Of course, he was kind of the departing signing that I made. Upon my exit from the club, we spent what remaining transfer budget there was on this guy. He looks good. But you know what? That's 1 year in the future. The team's still largely the players that I signed. They're playing... what system are they playing? They are playing a 4-3-3. So they're not playing the system that I was playing. That would have been a bit surprising if they were. But nevertheless, it's not a far departure. But like I was about to say, this is 1 year in the future. This is still the team I constructed. In a few years' time, you know, is Murakami going to have survived in 5 years from my departure? Are they still going to be challenging at the top? I hope they're going to be. I don't necessarily expect them to be. Let's go see what Football Manager's got cooked up. So the year is 2037. Murakami is still manager of the club. That is a pretty monumental achievement. Have to expect he's done reasonably well. And well, when we look at the league history here, they've won the league every single year, including this year, where they were predicted to win the league, and they only went and bloody did it. So 2032 was my final year. We looked at the season where they won the title over Vissel Kobe by 3 points. The 4 successive years since they've won the league, the few years it's a little bit closer. Against Aurora Reds in 2035, 1 point in it. The very next year against Frontale, goal difference secured Tokyo 23 the title. And for the year just gone, they actually won it relatively convincing yet again. So domestically, they're proving to be a force. My question now is, are they proven to be a force in the Asian Champions League? They've won 1. They have done it. I'm trying really hard not to say we've done it. Yes, Tokyo 23 won against Al Hazem of Saudi Arabia. Yeah, of Saudi Arabia. And they won in 2034. So only 2 years after we were just here. 3 years. If I kept the save game going for 3 more seasons, it could have been me. Maybe. So they actually won after extra time. We might be able to look at the match report for that game. Interesting to know, Al Hazem had actually won the Champions League the year before, which makes this even more of an upset. In goal, Nakano is still there for Tokyo 23, getting a 7.0. Shimoda, that signing that I discussed, signed him late on as I left the club for a load of money. He is still looking very, very good, although I did just spot there, he's not at the team anymore. We'll look through the transfer shortly, and you can see they won after extra time. Kataoka scored in the 89th minute, and in a game that they dominated, Tokyo 23 secured ultimate continental success. And when I look at the list of players, I feel like it's not unfair to say this is a load of the players that I brought here. Kibe, Miyake, Yamazaki. I love the fact that Miyake's still here, by the way. And in fact, he's now captain of the club. Oh, the boy who was absolutely insane for me. I'll be honest, his goal scoring has gone down, hasn't it? The Japanese Peter Crouch. But look at the average ratings. He is still a massive part of this team. I was a bit worried that he was captain so Nakano had retired, but good news, Nakano, 34, still no caps for Japan. That makes me very upset. He is still at Tokyo 23 as the main goalkeeper for the team. And look at the number of clean sheets he's got year on year. He's been really, really good. So the team, as you can see here, has now won 8 J1 titles in a row. They won the J World Challenge a couple of years. Of course, the tournament I never knew existed. The Empress Cup has been won just once. That was by me. So I've still got that going for me. As for the League Cup, the competition I kept bottling, they've won it 3 times in the last 4 years. So, you know what? They're doing okay, Tokyo 23. Now, before I left the club, I actually made a short list of all the players that were at Tokyo 23 when I resigned, which means now if we go on the team profile screen, all the names in orange are players that I signed. They are the players I can take credit for. So Ito and Kadono are still at the club. Of course, they were 2 big signings, really, that we made. Kadono in the Japanese national team. Ito still playing at left back, it looks like, from the main kind of screen here. Yeah, 43 appearances at left back. He's played a load of caps for Japan as well. Kibe is right up there. Now he's got 28 caps. I mean, I'll tell you what, the core of the team that I built is still here. And whilst I'll be honest, yes, there are a load of new names here, it's a different look, isn't it? Also, look at the wages. Look at the money they're giving some of these players. Ito's on £40,000 a week. The club have got £4 million in the bank balance. Is their finances okay? The finances they look a bit yo-yo-y. Makes me think they've had to sell some players. So the year after I left, Sorum Nakamura was the big sale for 1.3 million. This guy is now captain of Daegu over in South Korea. For the resulting years, looks like they have continued to sell players. Players actually who I don't recognise here. Masaya Furuuchi. Yeah, okay, I didn't. I was about to say, I don't recognise this guy. He had 4 clubs in 4 years. In 2035, they made £3 million in sales. Masuda, the right back that we talked about before, as the Mitsuhashi replacement, was their big sale, alongside Addison here, who, I'll be honest, he does not look very good. How much did they spend on him? They spent £2 million on him. They got 1.5 back. I feel like they did well to get that money back. Worth noting on the ins, they did spend a lot of money that year. Ito here, who looks absolutely phenomenal, 23 years old. He's a Japanese centre-back. They signed for £3.5 million. So the money that they were getting from the Asian Champions League, and I suppose from the wages being a little bit smaller than teams around them, but it looks like it was being reinvested into the squad. You can see they still were able to spend £2.2 million in 2036. However, this year, they did make £6.5 million in sales. That was largely money from Juve. He left for £4.9 million to go play in Qatar. I mean, Juve's good, but I do feel like that is some pretty good money. Almost £5 million for him. And Sasaki also left the building to go to Vissel Kobe. £1.7 million they received for him. Prior to his departure, he had actually had one really, really good year, but maybe didn't live up to some of the promise I thought he had. And for the fifth and final year, they spent a load of money on Acosta here. They spent how much? £3.4 million. That's a lot of money for a player who looks... On the outs, they sold Shimoda for £7.5 million. Of course, Shimoda was that gift of a signing that I bigged up. I spent £5 million on him. They've moved him on to Qatar for £7.5 million. Truthfully, I feel like they probably should have got a lot more for that, but it's probably just down to the fact that in Japan, player values are that little bit lower. Of course, Football Manager does simulate the fact that lower rep leagues, perhaps more obscure leagues, especially far-flung away from Europe, don't always get the right amount of money that perhaps the same player would playing in a higher profile league. And Murakami, as I mentioned earlier, he is still manager at this club. He looks like he's actually got better. His attributes are absolutely wild. I wonder, is he listed under stuff here? Is he, so yeah, okay, he's under favoured personnel. In the legends, Nemo is here, although Nemo is no longer here. He has also gone to Qatar. Why have so many of my players pissed off to Qatar? I guess the money's good. The only explanation I can come up with. I should also say, as is the nature with these kind of videos where we're going through things, discovering on the go, I'm going to miss some bits. So if you spot little bits of details, information that I just completely, I don't know, goes over my head, please let me know about it down in the comments. Yeah, there will be stuff I've missed. I do find it really interesting that the team has not done very well in the Emperor's Cup. Of course, we finished runner-up in it. In fact, they've got a final they're playing today, which will be included in the next sim forward. Maybe they can win that against Jubilo. It'd be the second time they've won it. Also, I've just spotted this. Hashizume is the top goal scorer in the Emperor's Cup. He left the club for 56k. To be honest, in our final year, he was just about out the team. But the man who joined me in J2 and was just a useful squad player forever is playing for Sanga, and he's top goal scorer. For the Hashizume fan out there, there's definitely one of you. There's your cameo for your boy. I mean, so far, so good for Tokyo 23. Finances look balanced. They're still towards the top. They are selling some players for some pretty big money. In this next jump forward, we will have a look at the overall best 11 and record holders just to see who's in the team. But all in all, happy with what I've seen so far. Hopefully Murakami's going to keep it up, although not do too well. I don't want him to pass me in the Legends column. That would annoy me. You know what's more annoying than him overtaking me in the Legends section? They've built a new stadium and they've named after him, the Shotaro Murakami Arena. I will say that's probably a better sounding name, isn't it, than the Space Stadium. Yeah, the Shotaro Murakami Arena. 32,000 seater. It's their own ground, but directly below it, look at that. They have fallen off. 4th and 5th. There's a new manager in town. However, I have just spotted Tokyo 23 have just regained the title. Okay, so first things first, Murakami left his manager role after 7 years. Where did he go? Manchester United. I mean, from Tokyo 23 to yeah, I can't really begrudge him leaving, can you? So he left, and in his absence, they've sacked 2 managers in the last, well, I was going to say 2 years, but actually, the current manager's been in the job a little while. But I did spot here on the history screen, Tokyo 23 haven't been all that lately. So 2037 was that last year we looked at 5 years in the future. The very following year, they slipped up against Vissel Kobe. I feel like Vissel Kobe and Tokyo 23, they've got a little bit of beef going on all the way back to when we kept on playing them in Emperor's Cup games. You can see on this season, the actual goal difference was very, very similar, but the points difference is kind of substantial. 8 points in it. Tokyo 23 did then go back to the top of the pile ahead of Vissel Kobe in 2039. The year after that, 4th place. Disastrous for Tokyo 23. Nagoya Grampus won the league, not once, but twice. Yes, that is right. The team that beat us in the League 2 playoff final all the way back in 2028 have gone on to win back-to-back league titles, but they weren't going to do it for a 3rd year in a row because for the year just gone, Tokyo 23 beat them to the title by 1 point. You can see as well here, Tokyo 23's media prediction was first, so clearly the team still has that little bit of quality. And in fact, when we look at players highlighted in orange, of the players I signed for the team, 3 players remain. Suzuki, the backup goalkeeper, who he's not played that. He's played 5 games this year. He's been subbed on twice. He's leaving on a free transfer at the end of his contract at the end of the year, so he's done. Yamazaki at 31 years old. Not got the pace he used to have. Looks like he has had a few issues of injuries. And the only other player of mine, Miyake, still here. I love this man. I love the fact that we signed him for £185,000. By happenstance, he just ended up being quite good for us. And for Tokyo 23, not only has he been club captain, but now for over a decade, he's been there banging in goals. And in fact, he's had his best season the year just gone since back when I was in charge in 2032. Now, I have also spotted here the overall bank balance of Tokyo 23 is 28 million in debt. I say in debt, that's just the bank balance currently. Their loan debt is 131 million. What's happened in the last few years? I mean, to be fair, I assume the stadium was a semi-expensive thing. They moved into the stadium last year, so that probably explains where a load of money went at one point. The stadium holds 32,000 fans, could hold up to just shy of 50,000 with expansions. That is cool to see. And looking at the history overview here, one thing I've just spotted, they actually finished runners-up in the Asian Champions League in 2037. Need to have a look at this. What happened? They lost in the final to Al Hazem. The team that they beat in the final a few years prior got some revenge. If we look at the past winners here, where are we? Tokyo 23 won it in 2034. 2 years later, Al Hazem had their revenge. Since then, interesting to note, it's been East Asian teams dominating the Champions League for like the last 5 years. John Book have won it a few more times. Seoul, Vissel Kobe, Grampus winning it as well. I like to see because, of course, they were in the second division at the same time we were at Tokyo 23. Very surprised that the Saudi teams have been losing consistently. I don't know if that's a case of the quality of their players isn't as good this far in the future. It's worth noting that with the database setup I was using, Saudi was fully loaded and active with a database mod that makes the league playable. So really, like, the teams should be more fleshed out, and yet looks like just not Saudi Arabia as well, but just the Middle East in general, which tends to, have the money to dominate at this level, haven't really been able to do their thing. As for other competitions, the Emperor's Cup they did win in 2037, so they've won that once since I left the club. In terms of other stuff going on, a load of League Cup wins, which is good to see. A few Super Cups too. They've definitely been the big team in Japanese football. In fact, if we look at Japanese clubs listed by reputation, they are currently second. They've actually dropped behind Nagoya Grampus due to a recent rep prize they've got, presumably from winning the Asian Champions League. The club did have a takeover in 2033, but it doesn't seem to have changed things financially too drastically. In terms of the facilities, they've been improved a little bit over the years. I still feel like they could have improved the youth recruitment more in my absence. I wanted to look at the hot prospect and say, well, at least they're producing some good regens and intakes. No, they are following very much with my legacy here, signing players from high school teams who look quite good. Kagawa could be the future. As I mentioned earlier, I've got a shortlist that I set up with the Tokyo 23 squad when I left the team, and I'm noticing a lot of the players who are left have gone on to have some pretty big moves over the years. Kibe plays for Leipzig, 62 caps for Japan. I'll tell you what, he's got really, really good. Like, really good. I didn't ever think he'd be as good as this. Leipzig got a bargain at £3.3 million. He's hit double-figure goals the last couple of years. Of course, the Bundesliga season is midway through things at the point we're at the end of the Japanese league season. But he was very, very successful for Tokyo 23. Bit of a shame they sold him, but he looks way better than I thought he was ever going to be. Takashi Ito is now playing for Barcelona. They signed him for £5.5 million, so another bargain buy for a European team. He looks absolutely phenomenal, to be fair, and he is on £83,000. I was wincing, wasn't I, earlier when I saw him on like 40,000. He's on even more now. He's fled the nest. Abazi headed to Wolfsburg. Of course, I mentioned he'd been a really good goal scorer for Tokyo 23. And in fact, you can see here, prior to his departure, hadn't played a lot of football, but in terms of his goal scoring return when he was playing, he was good. Juve is now playing in Brazil at Cruzeiro, where he was signed for £14 million. We sold him, or Tokyo 23 sold him. It's not we. It's painful to think about. He was sold for 5 million. He moved to Gremio for 10 million, and then Cruzeiro have signed him for almost 15 million, which is absolutely wild considering he is 31. And elsewhere, Cardano, he's playing for Fiorentina. He was signed for 2.7 million. It's another absolute bargain for a European team. And Shimoda, I spotted here, has gone to Bayern Munich for 53 million. Okay, he didn't go straight there. Qatar for a little bit, Bayer Leverkusen. But yeah, massive move to Bayern Munich for him. And to be fair, he's a bloody good player, isn't he? You can see here the full list of players as well. Look, Manga now playing in Iran. Is that Iran? It is Iran. He went to Gambara Saka on a free, then moved on. And there's a whole host of other players you can see here. Nemo, the Moroccan, not lost his pace just yet, despite his older age. He's been chilling in Qatar for the last, well, almost decade. And as I scroll through here towards the bottom, a lot of the players that remain, in all honesty, they're not very good. And they're kind of just chilling in the non-league of Japanese football, including Junpei Noda, who's now 34, and he's playing at a lower level than when we started the save game. Just because I know Honda has a fan club, here's your boy, 32 years old. Of course, if you want to go into more detail, pick up the save game. It'll be available very soon. To channel members, it's available now. Here is the overall best 11 of Tokyo 23. Nakano, 600 appearances. He retired aged 38. That was only 1 year ago, so he really stuck it out at the club for the long-term future. 26 team honours he won with the team. Elsewhere, Tachibana, Kadono, Juve, Ito make up the defence, Miyake, Yamazaki. I mean, I'm looking at things here. Despite the fact we've gone forward 10 years, it looks like a lot of the core of the team that I signed did stick around at least for long enough to cement themselves as legends at this club, including Takagi, who's down here. He retired aged 33, and also Taba. Taba retired aged 32. Kind of surprising how early he retired. Played 7 years at Kashima Antlers and got 33 goals in almost 200 games. For comparison, he had 79 goals for us in 113. Grass isn't always greener on the other side, kids. He should never have left us. It feels a bit bittersweet in some ways. I'm glad the team have stayed right at the top. I did feel like they could just crumble down immediately, but I think that one extra year I gave myself in Season 9 really just helped me glue the team together, build up the rep high enough that the team didn't have to move anyone on. And yet, look, there might have been a bit of a slip-off lately, but they've won the league for the year just gone. The trophy cabinet looks a lot more full than when I first came to the club. In fact, it was very empty in the beginning, wasn't it? Unsurprisingly, given the fact that the stadium was named after him, Murakami has slipped into the legend section alongside Miura, the B team manager. He's been the B team manager for 17 years. I feel like this guy's the real MVP of the save game. Maybe Tokyo Rising was all about this guy. Bit annoyed that Taba's still listed under the icons. But you know what? There's a load of good players here. And I did notice here, Brandshaug, who I think is a misassigned regen with his face. He was signed from Norway, 33 years old now, joined on a free transfer. He's been a very loyal servant to the club in the era after I departed. I know I mentioned it last episode, but I really wanted to do a save in Japan when I knew J-League was going to be added to Football Manager. Tokyo 23 was a save game that I thought I was going to do almost 10 years ago on the channel, and then I decided, for whatever reason, not to do it. I'm so glad I've finally been able to get around to doing this save game, share it with you guys, and I'm glad so many of you have enjoyed it. If you've got to the end of this video, a massive thank you for your support on this series. We'll be back with something in the intermission ahead of FM25. I hope you guys are excited for that. I'll see you very soon on the next one. I'm out.